Hi, welcome to my channel. Today we have a guest I am so excited about. It's Ania Bas. Ania is an author of Odd Hours, and we know each other from back in the day. We grew up in the same town, same street. We were taught by the same teachers back in Poland, that is. As you can tell, I'm Polish, blue eyes and blonde hair. So we are going to talk about the book. We are going to talk about Ania. We are going to talk about what it means to be a migrant, what it means to be displaced. How would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh gosh, well, I tend to introduce myself as artist and writer, currently based in the West Midlands, in the UK. Yeah, and I've been here for a while. It's coming up to 20 years.
Same here. I should have said that as well. I'm based in London. I've also been here for almost 20 years right now. I think we migrated at the same time from Poland,
Probably, yeah, sounds like it.
2004.
2004, yes.
When obviously that's we go back to the EU opening its borders, right?
Oh gosh,
you
yeah, yeah.
know
I migrated in July 2020, 2004, so literally a month after the borders opened.
I think it must have been July for me as well, because that's when I was still studying back in Poland at uni. So obviously July is when you don't have any classes. So it must have been July for me as well. Did you come to London, or did you
No, I came to the West Midlands, and I feel like I'm kind of doing a bit of a circular journey because I came to the West Midlands and then I moved around the UK a bit. I lived on the Isle of Wight in Dorset. I've done projects across the UK, and then I spent a decade in London, and not that long ago migrated out of London to West Midlands again.
Wow, that's so cool. So you did so much better than me. I've not really traveled around the UK that much. Europe, yes. The UK, not so much. I've been to Cornwall a while ago, but other than that, it's just not much apart from London. Yeah. So, so what projects took you around the UK? Obviously, you did not start as a writer or an author. You started as an artist. What were the projects that took you around the country?
My visual arts practice you know, very much was rooted in working with people. So I guess engagement practice, social practice that I've had, and I'm kind of talking about it as something that's gone away, but it's in flux, I believe. I think my practice is definitely currently changing rather rapidly. At the time, I was working with different people in different contexts, and I was moving around so much because I was moving for projects. I was moving for work. So, for example, I spent a couple of years living on the Isle of Wight, and what took me there was an artist residency, a residency in business context. I was artist in residence in a company producing blades for wind turbines, and I've that residency was 6 months long, but I've enjoyed Isle of Wight so much that I stayed there for a couple of years. And what took me out of the Isle of Wight was another project.
That's
So
amazing. That's quite unusual for a Polish migrant to migrate into the UK and just begin straight away in arts like you did. So how did that happen?
Um, I guess a lot of luck that brought that for me. It's when I came over to stay. I came to an arts organization that was hosting me. I was still a student, so yes, very much parallel lives. As a student, I came to the West Midlands to West Bromwich, and I was on a placement with an organization called Jubilee Arts that later became
Oh, okay.
the
That
public.
makes sense.
Yes, I returned to that organization to write my MA thesis about them. So that first year in the UK was very much being immersed in the archives and looking at examples of work that I was writing my MA about and my thesis about. And then the when that's finished, I kind of the idea of being an artist was by that point a reality because I did not study fine art in Poland. I studied cultural anthropology. But
So cool.
that year in the UK was sort of, I guess, cemented my belief, my self belief in being a practitioner and having arts practice. And I guess it says a lot about the context in which I was, and Jubilee Arts being very people who work there were people who very much, I guess. opened up my eyes to my own agency and to the fact that I can do what I want to do with my life and be an artist of a sort that I want to be, because my concept of art was at that point not as open as it is now. It was quite fixed in these ideas of it to be of certain shape or form. And
sorry to interrupt, did you study in Poland, back in Poland?
Yes,
You just
I
came
studied
for
in Poland.
an exchange. So this whole fixture and everything else, it's like, that's a very Polish concept, right? Like everything is kind of fixed in Poland, whereas here it's a lot more open. Do you feel that way?
It was definitely that element definitely felt that way, that you can redefine yourself and you can redefine what you do here. And I did not feel that freedom back in Poland. And
Same
I don't know
here.
if that comparison stands, because I feel like my connection to Poland at the moment is not as strong. I've never worked in Poland as an adult.
Same here.
So I feel like, I find it hard now to be comparing countries that without lived experience of being in Poland. Like I do go frequently to visit, to spend time with my family back in Poland, but I do not work there, and I think that's a big thing.
Okay, so in the interview with South Bank Center, was that?
Yes,
Is that
it
what?
was. Yeah.
You said, I am a migrant. I am also from a family of migrants. This experience of displacement and migration is part of my family history, and I carry it with me. To me, it's part of who I am. So could we talk about that? What do you mean when you say that that's part of you, that migration, displacement, that experience of it? What does it mean that you carry it with you?
So I was kind of always curious about the fact that I found it, let's call it easy to move around, and having itchy foot, and, and being one that's kind of finding it. But it did not bother me to go and study far away from home, and then with the first opportunity to go abroad, I was happy to jump that ship and just try my luck and live in another country, and at the time, I did not question it. I didn't think much of it. And I guess when you try to, maybe as you mature, as you get older, you try to ask yourself those questions: Why have I done that? Why am I living here? Why am I building my life elsewhere? And I guess also going back home and being encouraged by my family to return. You have these conversations, and it became apparent when I was looking at my family that I grew up in Western Pomerania. We grew up in the same street, but all the community, or majority of the people in our town, they were the second generation living in that town, or first generation coming to that town
True, because of the World War II.
Yes, so that people being moved, so that migration that my grandparents on both my mum's and my dad's side undertaken, there was no voluntary migration. They were pretty much moved, but nevertheless, they had the experience of building the life elsewhere in a new context, in a new land, and new terrain, with new sets of people. And so like my dad's family is from the lands who are now under the rule of Ukraine, and my mum's family is from lands which currently belong to Belarus. So it's I'm a product of migration.
That's right. I can't remember. I should know this, but I think for my grandma and my grandpa, I think it must have been Russia or Belarus, just like you said, as well. That's very interesting, because I also find it very easy to move around. I mean, one of the reasons why I moved to London was because, like being mixed race back in Poland, where we grew up, everybody knew me, so it didn't matter. But outside, like, you always very visible. You don't want to be the center of attention. And I feel like that was one of the reasons why I wanted to get out. And London was like a perfect place where, it's just such a melting pot of, so many different races, cultures, and everything. You don't stand out in London. Nobody cares, where you're from, because everyone is from somewhere and looks different than another person, right? But I also found it quite easy to move around. It was not a big deal, and I feel like you've just maybe answered why for me as well, because again, I do, just like yourself, I do have a similar story with my grandparents being displaced because of the war. But then even my father is a migrant too. He came to Poland, met my mother from Nigeria, and then now he's in America. He's an American citizen. So I guess that must be it. Like, it must be in the blood, just like it is in your blood. It must also be in mine, because I also find it quite easy to move around, and it doesn't really, I feel like home is wherever you are, and and what you love is. Let me not take away from your time, but tell me, you don't have a Polish accent. You don't have a strong Polish accent. How is that possible?
Excuse me. Oh,
You,
oh no, I think I do. Maybe it's not a Polish accent. I think it's some maybe some weird European accent. Yeah, people don't
yeah,
necessarily think that I'm from Poland. They definitely think I'm from elsewhere. I'm definitely classed in a group of, I'm foreign.
yeah, for sure. I mean, you have an accent, but it's not a Polish accent, right? And I get the same thing, but I'm not sure if it's because of the way I speak or whether it's just because of the way I look. So when people look at me, they're like, no, she cannot be Polish. Even if they hear a little bit of a Polish accent, they must be like, no, it just doesn't make sense. She must be from elsewhere. Okay. In the interview with Southbank, you said, or you answered, their question was, if you could give one piece of advice to anyone arriving newly in the UK, what would it be? And you said, please celebrate who you are. Don't feel like you need to hide your culture, adapt your name, or bend in other ways to fit in. It will only come back to bite you. So how does pretending to be something other than you are come back to bite you? I mean, in terms of migration, displacement, your culture, and your identity, cultural identity, I guess.
I guess what I was trying to convey is the idea that you empty yourself if you're trying to fill or replace what you've got with something else. You might end up being a shell of yourself, and
I love it. Yeah.
and that's can't be good for a human.
No.
So definitely not sort of saying that when you choose, or if you have to move to another reality, or another culture, another set of people. I think it's definitely important to see what's there and try to embrace it in ways that suits you, and but at the same time not to forget who you are, where you're from, and celebrate both. Definitely celebrate. I mean, I guess I see a lot of stories of people who change the name to make it
do you?
pronounced. Yes, like this is like I've got ongoing battle with being called Ania, and it's like no Anya.
Do they try to change your name?
Yes.
On
So
purpose, or is it just just not being able to pronounce Anya?
well, it's just how people would read it first time round. So they'll
Right.
it's Ania rather than Anya, and I guess it's like fine. This is how you think that it's being pronounced if you have not seen this name or have not heard that name pronounced before. But then so there's a small act of correction that you quite often. I start the conversation with someone I don't know, and but I think it's important, because otherwise I feel like I've been
losing yourself.
Yes, exactly. I'm already not myself. I've already exist under this pretend, wrongly pronounced name. So I make a point of pronouncing other people's names, and I guess I'm quite touchy about it.
I love it. I love it. No, I love the fact that you are not, I mean, there's no reason to be ashamed, but some people seem to be ashamed of who they are. And when it comes to names, Monica in Poland is spelled with a K, right? Outside, usually they try to spell it with a C. So I do the same thing. I always tell everyone who tries to misspell my name that it's a Monica with a K, right? And not with a C. So I guess, it's the same kind of thing. Like, you want to maintain who you are, even if it's, minute.
I feel like if you turn it on its side, if I don't know, if someone says John and you'd pronounce it Jane, I'm sure it would matter to them. There's actually a brilliant bit in one of my favorite books by Nabokov, Penin, which is about the impossibility of a pronunciation, about the character who is Russian is mispronouncing name of American people calling I believe it's John calling John Jean, and so yeah, it kind of comes back to me as that. Yeah, it's important. It's important.
It is absolutely. But do you know people who on purpose change their identity or try to do that?
So yes, I do. So I was teaching for a few years at one of the London colleges, and students, usually students coming from Asia, would change their names, and to like choose English names instead of using their names, and I was baffled by it. And I never got to the bottom of if it's literally to make it more accessible. Like if it's done to make it easier for Western folk to pronounce names, to me that's a wrong reason.
Yeah. Do you feel like it's stronger amongst minorities?
Um, No, not necessarily. I mean, the example that I gave you, just of changing a name, comes from a particular context of
Right.
working with students. But then forms of how people who come to the UK adapt themselves, I'm sure, are multiple and diverse. And I guess same thing must probably happen of people who migrate to other countries. They just
Yeah.
observe it here in this particular context.
Yeah.
And I guess I'm guilty of it myself. I'm sort of saying that, I'm telling everyone to pronounce my name, to call me Anya, but that's only because no one can say Anna, and I don't want to be known as Anna. So, it's they small things. I've already picked how I want to fit in. I
Mhm.
picked my version. It's something about being definitely not ashamed of who you are.
Do you feel like this is changing? Diversity, equity, inclusion, those are like very trendy terms these days. Do you feel like they are real, or do you feel like they are just trendy and it's just marketing really, but things aren't really changing?
Maybe these are like big words. Without context they don't mean much. I guess we'll need to look into a particular situation. I think that maybe I can talk about the arts, and I think like the arts is changing policies which are in place, or kind of how people are being more mindful of what's being programmed, in what context things are being programmed, who's invited to have shows. And I think things are being looked at through a new lens, and a more diverse lens, and that's really, to me, like exciting that that's happening.
Yeah,
So
definitely. But let me ask you this. So did you ever feel like you might be at a disadvantage as a Polish person writing in English in England?
um well, that's an interesting one. Disadvantage where? Maybe I can.
Well, in the industry, did anyone ever tell you, are you sure you can write in English? Maybe you should write in Polish. Maybe you should do that in Poland, not here, as since English is not your first language, stuff like that. Have you ever heard anything like that from anyone or from yourself, maybe?
Well, definitely from myself. That's, if anyone was whispering those thoughts into my ear, was definitely the little devil that sits on your arm,
Yeah,
kind of undermines what you're capable of. But then no, I guess I don't know if I've been lucky. Like in terms of how I'm perceived, like I feel like I'm quite invisible when it comes to my identity. Like, people assume I'm British until I open my mouth and say hello, and then if know, but I'm not.
yeah.
So I guess, my level of invisibility goes so far. And but when it comes, so this is like in a post office queue, situation, or supermarket or wherever. But when it comes to publishing, like my experience being that quite encouraging. Then I'm meeting more and more people who write in their second or third language, and they with some success. So I don't necessarily think that's unusual. I mean, some people find it impressive, but like for loads of people, it's like, oh, great, yeah, you can write in this language. Why not? There were occasions when I was, I've experienced sort of, people undermining what you do, or kind of where you should be doing it. And but then that's sort of approach of go back to the country where you're from type of scenario. I think it's still sadly happens, and it happens in very particular contexts, and those contexts are usually fueled by the fact that people feel quite threatened in their own neighborhood. So
Yeah.
I don't really feel that it comes from a place of someone being a bad human. I think it comes from a place of
Insecurity.
insecurity that's caused by larger structural choices of sort of communities being underfunded, and foreigners just such an easy
Target.
there's almost someone to blame.
Absolutely.
And that someone is someone from elsewhere.
Mhm. But which language do you prefer for creative expression? Like, obviously, you are here, so you write in English. It makes perfect sense. But if you were to choose, would you prefer to write in English or in Polish? Um,
I'm greedy when I don't want to choose. I've
oh,
I mean, it's been definitely ambition of mine to write in English to a degree where I would find a publisher from that writing. So I've moment I decided this is what I'm going to do, there was this sense of like that's something I want to achieve. That's a goal, an aim, something I want to work towards. But I guess my appetite, is just getting bigger because now I'm working on something in Polish, which.
Oh, you are?
Yes, I am. So I guess it's sort of like I guess I've done it in English and I continue writing in English, but I want to try my luck and see how I can, and if I can, take on a form of novel in my first language.
I'm sure you can. I know you can. Okay, so let's talk about Gosha just for a moment. Your protagonist, edgy, super funny, super smart, a little crazy at times. Why was it essential for you to create an edgy female protagonist that's not easy to love, as you say yourself?
Mm.
And I would agree.
Well, some motivation probably for that particular kind of something I wanted to do came from reading quite a bit of commercial fiction where if it opens with a female protagonist, that female protagonist has to be loved by a reader within the first few pages. I got sick of those, pleasant, lovely women who are just so easy to love and without necessarily spiky natures which are revealed or protagonists who are not making you uncomfortable. A male protagonist can be horrendous and you still don't mind. And somehow for female protagonists, it's not the same. So it was a bit of a challenge for myself to create a female protagonist that is difficult for a reader to embrace. And it kind of, I hope that for people who withstand with Gosha, who remain with the book for some time, I guess it probably takes you till at least half of the book, then you kind of, you can see her other side, you can understand a bit more about kind of why she's behaving the way she's behaving, and you can get to the maybe open up a few of her layers and you get to see softer side of who she is. But yeah, it was important for me to also create someone who's not perfect, and it's not someone who redeems themselves in all possible ways as well. I kind of feel like that a lot of us, we live with stuff that we've done it's wrong, and it's there, it's going to remain, and all you can do is to live your life better going forward.
Mm-hmm. I guess what you say about women in literature, it's the same in life, isn't it? We are judged a lot more harshly than men on so many levels. Many times men can do things that are just unbelievable, but women not so much, if they don't want to be judged.
Oh yeah, definitely. It still happens. A lot of it is it's difficult to watch, and I guess also difficult to like I catch myself that I have that harsher look on women myself, and I think that's really worrying that women are the harshest critics of other women.
Yeah, I guess that is true. But would you call yourself a feminist? And if yes, what does it mean to you to be one?
Yes, I would call myself a feminist.
Okay.
I would like it to. I would love to live in a world where it's equal, where we all have same access, same rights, no, and where gender doesn't matter.
Right.
Well, it's still a dream.
I wouldn't call myself a feminist, to be honest, but I would also like to live in a world where, we are equal to men. So what is your definition of feminism apart from that? Because I would also want the same thing, but I would not call myself a feminist.
Oh, why would you not call yourself a feminist if you want the equality for men?
I don't think you have to be a feminist to want equality. You can be, you may just want justice,
Or maybe then our definition of what is feminism varies, because to me feminism is that it's equality for men and women.
I would definitely want that as well, equality and just, a more just world. And, I travel a lot to Africa, and I can see another level of, that lack of equality. And it really breaks my heart. And you can see it so vividly there, even much more than here in Europe. We are actually quite privileged in Europe. compared to the women in Africa, for instance, I would say. Yeah. But still, I would not call myself a feminist, just somebody who wants justice and equality for
So
all.
what's your definition of feminism?
I guess that's where I should have probably started. I should have probably started from finding a definition, because I guess that means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Well, I might Google something real quick. Should I do that? Let's ask Uncle Google, what is a feminist? Who is a feminist? I should ask. Okay, an advocate of women's rights on the basis of the equality of the sexes, a person who supports feminism. There are a million types of different women who consider themselves feminists, but don't have the same agenda. Okay. So I guess if this is the definition of feminism, then I am a feminist. But again, there is a distinction where Uncle Google says that there are a million types of different women who consider themselves feminists, but don't have the same agenda.
Oh, yes.
So that's why I'm hesitant, to call myself a feminist, because of the different agendas and, like the different ways that feminism may be expressed by different women, depending on intensity and just, somebody might say, I'm now playing the devil's advocate. Someone might say that a feminist is one who hates men.
Or maybe I would just disagree with that skewing that meaning of feminism into that. That's,
Okay.
hating someone else is definitely not feminism.
Okay. I mean, if feminism means wanting equality, then I guess I am a feminist. I'm okay with that description. I just never really thought of myself as one, Never, I wouldn't say never, because I did. I used to think of myself as a feminist, totally, when I was younger. But then, anyway, let's not delve too deeply into that. If that is the definition, wanting equal rights for men and women, then yes, I am a feminist.